You guys also had an opportunity to hear from the best in America, Tim Walton and his crew. And I got to say, he said all the typical things about. He did talk about moving these guys around and then playing in different positions. I thought that was good. And then also Devin Sanchez. And of course, Tony, I appreciate you pointing his interview out because Devin Sanchez, what I was impressed with, in addition to him just being able to explain things and not give 1 and 2 word answers, is that he takes full responsibility and accountability despite his age and despite his class rank, that he wants to be the best on the roster and he's competing against the best in the nation and still wants to win those battles. And that's what's expected to contribute immediately.
Yeah, I was very impressed with him. And just as you said, I was talking with somebody, another writer afterwards, and I'm like, he is the most confident guy, one of the most confident people you'll ever talk to, but also he understands that if he doesn't win a job, it's his fault. It's nobody else's fault. Like when you talk about that, he takes full responsibility for any kind of failing that he would have. And he even talked about, well, people expect you to just come in and start. He's like, there's IGB and there's Jermaine Matthews ahead of me. Like, so, they're going to play. I'm going to do my best to get in there as well. But also you love the fact that he says, if there's a competition going on, there's a job out there to be won. If I'm going to compete at it, like I'm going to go, I'm going out there to win it. And if you just keep competing at your best, then you will win it. And if you don't, then, somebody else was better. And I just really, really mature guy for an 18-year-old who was very impressed with. And we'll pick up the mantle as one of the better talkers on the team. Just go ahead and throw him out there every time for us. And we'll make do with that. But, he's going to play this year, but the starting corners are set. Davis Igbinosun and Jermaine Matthews are set, and Tim Walton loves Jermaine Matthews. The question here is, can Aaron Scott or Devin Sanchez do what Jermaine Matthews did last year and just force his way into the lineup? Because last year was Igbinosun and Denzel Burke. Those were your starters. Jermaine Matthews worked his way into the rotation because they had to. They couldn't just – he was good enough to play. And so that's the task for Aaron Scott and Devin Sanchez this year, is to become that third guy. And, Kerry Combs always tried to have a 3-man rotation. His ultimate dream was, other than having a good Ohio State defense as a defense coordinator, which did not happen, his ultimate dream was to have a 4-man starting rotation at corner, and he could never quite get there. And I'm not saying they're going to get there this year, but there are a lot of teams out there that wouldn't mind starting Aaron Scott and Devin Sanchez this year as their 2 corners.
Yeah, I think you got to be pretty pleased with the back 5 there on defense. We did not get a chance to talk to Igbinosun or Jermaine Matthews, but they don't lack for confidence, either one of them, and that's what you need, confidence and a short memory when you're playing the cornerback position. And those guys do a great job. At the end of the day, they do a pretty good job. So I think you're looking for big things. And obviously, you got Caleb Downs coming back at safety. He's tremendous as well, All-American. And Malik Hartford, it sounds like, or Jalen McLean, kind of battling it out, there at the other safety spot. And we'll have to see what materializes there.
And I believe Scott and West were in the same recruiting class. And then you got Sanchez in this recruiting class. And that West-Scott class, they may have lost somebody that got flipped out of that class. But at one point, they had like 3 of the top 4 corners in the nation.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Class.
Well, and even in this past one with the Devin Sanchez, they also had Naeem Alford was like the number 2 corner who was committed and then ended up signing with Oregon. I think in the 2025 class, I think they, had 2 corners that decommitted, but they kind of have that almost every year. They'll have 4, 5, 6 decommitments every year. Some of those are bullets that were dodged, frankly.
Offered, allegedly, somebody said Oregon, Nike are going to make a shoe for him. And on the floor of the Rose Bowl, after the Buckeyes routed Oregon, one of the Ohio State players, they ain't make no shoe for you, bro. One of those kind of exclamations. They ain't making no shoe for you.
Yeah.
It's all fair in love and war and recruiting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is now. All's legal.
Yep.
And as Devin Sanchez was saying, he doesn't necessarily talk more than anybody else in the room, but he's also going to let you know about it. That's just part of the game, and especially on the outside there with the wide receivers and the DBs.
Yeah, you got to have confidence, you got to have amnesia, and you got to be able to talk, basically. And that's communication and also trash talk, basically. And I also like the part where Devin Sanchez is talking about how the most important lesson he's learned is you got to compete every day. And he talked about how he was always winning his individual competitions, but it was against other freshmen. And then they had him compete against the rest of the team, and then he finally lost one of those competitions to IGB, and IGB told him about it. Let him hear about it. So even the corners even talk trash to themselves. It's just within their nature.
I don't know if this is standard practice out there, but it sounded like that they formed a team of freshmen, and then they had individual matchups with the veteran players, but they kind of kept track of all the freshmen together as a unit, taking on the veterans and throwing them out, into the fire, expecting they're going to fail. That's what would normally happen, especially at a place like this, but still holding them to the standard that you got to win these one-on-one battles.
Yeah, and I liked the part where he said that in high school, if you lose, whatever. In college, if you lose, the coaches are watching you, and they're watching to see how you respond to it. And like everybody's watching to see how you respond to it, because you have a vital role in this team, because you're one of 85, one of 105. Like, they can't be wasting their time or that spot on you. So you've got to step up for everybody, and you've got to be able to respond and apply and win the next one. And so it's really interesting the way they develop that competition in the winter, and then again in the summer workouts. But yeah, the way I view it is like they've got these freshmen, they're in a pod. Like if it's like a zoo and it's like all of these the babies, and then they finally let them out to the adults, and because you don't want to let them out there right away, and then finally they're able to be incorporated into the rest of the team, and you see how they've you don't want anybody to sink, but also it's going to be choppy out there, so have fun while you're trying.
Absolutely. And then if you put together not necessarily one response from Devin Sanchez, but just kind of piece together a number of responses, it sounded like he really wanted to get away from home because he just thought he was going to grow up faster, and that it was going to be a challenge to be in an unfamiliar place, unfamiliar setting, challenged by just a change in life.
Yeah, sometimes that's what guys want, is to start fending for themselves, and to realize they have to rely on themselves and only themselves to get through the tough times. And I think that's very important. I think for young people to come about that realization and want that kind of independence, and be trusted to be able to handle themselves away from home. So, we see a lot of grown men come out of this program, and that's what the coaches and everybody there pride themselves in, is they take these guys and mold them, and generally the finished product's pretty good.